There are websites for people who are dating in their 50s. The problem is that I don't see many people in their 50s as far as the matching from the female side. Okay. Like there's young females in there. I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? What is this? Why are you here? You're not even in your 50s. And dating, dating in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and questionably your 80s. Dating when you're young, dating when you're in your middle part of your life. Dating overall is a freaking nightmare. Do you hear me? Okay. Now, this is my series, Things on My YouTube Algorithm, and it's relating to dating in your 50s. And there's going to be a huge story time that culminates to how this came into my feed. I theorize because it adds into the questionable antics of my smartphone that listens in on my conversations, either by myself, in my head, with my friends, in my bed. Yeah, I'm going to go with bed. So we're going to start off with dating in our 50s, because I'm in my 50s, and see how that turned out to my YouTube algorithm showing me all of my videos that I have been sequestered to watch as if I'm in a freaking jail. Okay. So hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lena. And if I bring value to you and you find this funny, scary, quirky, interesting, all of the above, I hope that you consider joining my community. And I hope that you consider to like, share, hype, and all the other 9 things that YouTube expects content watchers to do for their content creators in order to hit that algorithm sweet spot. Because you know what? YouTube is not just casual watching anymore. You literally have to do some work because that's what you get paid the price, even with commercials on our videos. So listen, let's get into this. I was walking down the street one day in the very, very month of May. Literally, it was May because we're in May. So I had someone come over the other day, a woman about my age group. She is my boyfriend. Ooh, ciao. I think I'm getting high fever. My son's girlfriend's aunt. So we're around the same age length. And she wanted to come and hang out and be at the pool. And I have a very good rapport with her. I like her. She's funny. I like the fact that she's in my age group. So we share a lot of, old memories of the 80s and growing up. And suddenly, we were talking outside with my phone nearby. And she is very heavily into thinking, or not even thinking, trying to date. I, on the opposite spectrum, I have given up that hope. Not even hope, just given up. Probably before I moved to Miami, right after my divorce. And I am okay with that. Ooh, make sure my mic is on. I always do this. I'm telling you now I do. So she is actively trying to look, and we were just going over the different scenarios of situations of dating at this age group and how men are fatigued of dating, or if they want to date, they don't want to date women of our age. They want to date younger, etc. Or the younger ones actually want to date our age, which, interesting flip if you ask me. And, she was just going on and on about the different ways that she wants to go out and meet men and that men don't look at her and etc. And my heart, came out because it was like, she's still at that point in her life that she wants men to look at her. She wants to be acknowledged. She wants to find someone. And I'm going to give this one statement to everyone out there that is still in the shark infested waters of dating. I give you lots of kudos. I got out of those waters a long time ago. I said, I'm not swimming anymore. I'll go hiking, biking, whatever, but I'm not going to do that anymore for various reasons, not just because there is just a crap show out there. Okay. And not everyone is set up to have the long-term effects of dating, consistently trying to find someone, not the one, someone. Okay. And I say that because, listening to her was exhausting. And lo and behold, that evening I clicked onto my YouTube and I started to get videos about not just women dating in their 50s and the struggles, but men dating in their 50s and their gripes about it. And I'm like, if I only can get the lottery winning numbers out of my freaking phone, then I would appreciate this damn smartphone. So once I started to see all these videos, I said, now we have a video to talk about, because I really didn't think about coming in here because I am not an expert in dating at this point in my life. Um, but I do find it interesting, the perspectives of different people. So, I started to go on TikTok, my favorite place, not. And I started to get these small clips of people, men and women, who are actively trying to find someone to spend some time with. So this first clip is going to be of someone who claims that dating is like dating from a convenience store, which I found very interesting to start off with. And then she ends up with a complete story time. So bear with her. I thought it was one of the most interesting ones, other than the other ones I'm going to show you as well. So roll the tape.
Why is dating in your 50s like shopping the clearance rack? I gotta know. I recently met a guy online and, worked for a pharmaceutical company. Good looking guy, really good looking guy. And we texted a little bit. We had not met. He sent me a a photo one morning of him. And when I got the photo, I was just blown away. Like, I was just like, oh, because he had permanent eyebrows that looked like somebody had taken a marker that was that wide and just went straight across. And, I had to stop and I was like, is this a joke? Is he like, you know, is he joking? Or, I didn't know what to think. So I said, oh, you have permanent eyebrows. And he said yes. As I got older, I noticed they were a little thinner. So I went and got permanent eyebrows and it gave me my masculinity back. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for doing whatever makes you feel good about you. In fact, I had an appointment to get some done because my friend has hers and I love them. So I went, and I talked to the lady at the appointment and I told her I was concerned that, if I didn't like them, that they were permanent. And I told her about the photo and I don't think she took me serious. So I showed her the picture and she was like, that's awful. I mean, like it was bad. And, you know, I understand he did it to get his masculinity back, but when I looked at it, that's not masculine, is not the word that came to mind. And again, I'm all for doing whatever makes you happy. I do what makes me happy. I think that was a bit much. And when you take a picture, like, surely you look at it before you send it. I mean, did he not see that? Like, you could visibly see his real eyebrow and the big black mark. Um, anyway, am I making too much of this? Like, what would you do? I mean, maybe I'm making too much. I'm not trying to be judgmental. It just kind of blew me away. Um, and I was just like, wow. But I would love to hear your thoughts.
Interesting story. I think that when you go into some scenario, any scenario, and you come out of it upset in a sense that you have the opening line, why is dating feel like it's in a convenience store? The whole premise of this person that she saw online with permanent eyebrows, the man, and he looked, and she never shows him, he looks scary. It's not a reason to give up completely, but there is a reason why you should probably not swipe or like not match, right? So I found it interesting that she came up with this story. Um, the next one we're going to come up with is someone else that kind of put things in perspective when it comes to dating in your 50s and what people don't tell you, which at first I was listening to her and I was like, okay, 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 okay. And then what her last part was, is probably what propelled me to move from Miami to back home in New York and be with my family. So roll the footage. Let's go.
Most single women over 50 won't admit this, but here's the real truth. Yeah, we can go out, we have fun, we travel, we go out with the girls, we go to yoga, some of you are playing pickleball, tennis, we have great lives, we pay our own bills, we afford our own homes. But at the end of the day, when you come home late at night to an empty house, or maybe even your dog, it's fucking lonely. And I know because it hit me hard. I went to Mexico, a women's retreat. I came home filled with love, connection, gratitude, embodiment, empowerment. When I walked in that door and it was dark, and yeah, my dog was there and I love him so much, but it was lonely. And then I slipped and fell in the bathroom and I was all alone and I was scared. So the truth is, having a partner.
So there's some truth to that in the sense that if you feel that lonely, even with a pet, not necessarily a dog, then you're not set up to be alone. Okay. And I mean in the physical, emotional sense, not the being at home alone. Right. And I know many, many people, not just women, who just don't want to grow old alone. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going into it the right way, because just because you find someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be happy, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be either, right? So the part that struck me, of course, is the last part, which is, she fell in the shower and she was alone. Now, thankfully, that physically never happened to me. And I had a collective group of friends in Miami. One of my best friends literally lived in one of the HOAs across the street. It was by happenstance. It didn't happen because, we knew each other in that way. We actually were office workers, and she just moved from one location, just happened to be across the street from where I was. And for the 15 years that I was there, she is and was and still is one of my closest friends. We always had a code. They never, if they didn't hear from me at least once in during the day, they knew that something was wrong, whether it's through WhatsApp, text, phone, whatever. 2 days wouldn't go by without somebody saying, "Hey, what's going on?" And they would check on me first and foremost. They had my son's number. God forbid something happens to me, because you have to develop a strong core community, whether it's through whoever you feel comfortable with, or, even a dog or a pet can be trained to help you. Believe it or not, they're very smart animals. That fear of being alone and having something happen to you somewhat happened to me, especially when it comes to my diabetes, especially when I had my elbow so much in pain that I couldn't move my elbow, and my back sciatica that I had. That struggle was really real. And I can't necessarily tell you that it perpetuated me to want to get into a relationship, because then I'm getting into a relationship for the wrong reason, right? If I've been alone all this time and I just want someone that's going to be there for when I fall, when I'm in pain, then I'm not going into it thinking of it, what if he falls or what if she falls and they're in pain, right? It has to be reciprocal, right? So you have to want to go into a relationship for like the marriage, good, bad, worse, in sickness and in health. So I kind of understand what she meant by that, because after the 15 years and I decided to come back home, my directive was really to be with family again, because most of my family, all of my family is here. All of it. I was out in Miami by myself, right? Had a good time. And it was time to come home. I've never, never stopped calling New York my home. No matter how many, I was never a Miamian. I was never a Floridian. Never. I was always a New Yorker. New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. Okay. Let me check it out. Let me tell you something right now. Just so you knew where we get. So it was always the goal for me to come back. And how I was going to do that, I had no clue, because I thought about this probably 7 years into moving to Miami, that I knew that my goal would be to come back when I turn a certain age. How this all transpired to what I'm doing is, the luck of the draw, I guess. So I think that she had some good points, but I also think that desperation makes you do stupid crap. And if you don't think through what you want in a relationship and not overthink it, because there's a lot of TikTok videos of people talking, they have this grandiose list of expectations from someone. I'm like, you know what? Why don't you just go out and have some fun? Here's the problem with that. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Let's get realistic. We cannot, as women or people of that type of sensitivity, expect every date to be the possible one. If you're going to jump into this dating pool, or shark infested waters, I like to call it, you have to expect that you're going to go through a lot before you find someone that's comparable. The ones that claim that they found their husband, they found their boyfriend, they found their man, their woman, whatever the hell it is, that is like, let's look at it as the top 1%. That's the exception, not the rule. And we really don't know the real true backstory, right? We would presume that they're telling you the truth. We don't know how many dates they swiped left or they matched or they didn't match or whatever the hell's going on. You need to be mentally prepared for a lot of discourse and not go into every single date as if this is going to be the one that's going to lead me down to my path of glory. Already you're halfway done. Because when you start, and this is my opinion and from experience, you can't build that in your head. Go out and have some fun safely. Because there's a lot of questionable people out there. There's a lot of questionable acts that people do, whether they're doing it for views because it could be lies or it's really true and they don't understand how to navigate this. The part of it being in your 50s is a lot scarier. Yes. And the way that we Gen X has grown up into the world of dating apps and this madness of being online and finding all this stuff is very different than what the next generations that are coming up and their experiences. There's going to come a time, and I hope to God. But you know how they say everything comes full circle, like fashion? We went through our 80s era and went through our 70s era and 60s era. And now, some of those clothing are coming back a little bit updated. Thank God. I don't want to go through the 70s again. No, I don't even want to go through the 80s. The 80s were shoulder pads, the hair. 90s were just as scary with the baggy pants. Okay. But it always comes full circle. So I truly believe that all these dating apps are going to disappear. Let me not say disappear. They're going to be more integrated into our daily lives in a different way because people are getting tired of the BS on these apps. And I knew it was BS from the day it started. Listen, I'm going to give you story time again. Growing up as a Gen X, my parents are baby boomers. Their parents are the greatest generation that was in World War One and World War Two, and then there's the silent generation that's mixed in there as well. So for the greatest generation, when they came back from the war, that was probably around the first time they were discovering people that are not just in their area because they traveled far, and they went to Europe and they had relations in the boudoir, with different cultures. And ultimately most of them came back and they wound it out, marrying the person that they are with. I don't want to just say American because it's not just America, but let's say American for America's sake. And it would be either their high school sweetheart, their childhood sweetheart, their girl on the block, whatever the hell it was, predominantly. Not everyone, but most of them. So you have your greatest generation and the silent generation doing this, and then they give birth to the baby boomers. Now, the baby boomers, of course, they came into a world that was different in the sense that there was never a teenage life. Okay. Teenagers didn't exist really in the way that the teenage boom happened in the baby boomer era. Okay. Because you grew up in those past generations, you didn't really have time to go hang out in a soccer. Okay. Elvis wasn't even there yet. You weren't even doing the jig. You were straight out coming out from school and you were working and that was it. There was no time in between. So now you have the baby boomers who have this teenage lifestyle, and then they have the free love, because they grew up in the 60s where everything was Woodstock ish, flowers and the Vietnam War. And it was like they experienced a lot of different people, not just where they lived, not just their high school sweetheart. Now they're going on to college and they can marry their college sweetheart, or they can, meet someone a little further out because they were driving. Cars became very popular, and especially in those rural areas where you have to live with a car. You cannot be without a car. A vehicle was a necessity, it wasn't a right. So, the baby boomers gave birth to questionable habits in the boudoir. Um, you know, I don't want to get into it, but I want to be safe on YouTube. And then they gave birth to Generation X, which is my generation, right? So I'm growing up, get my groove on. It's hitting the 80s, right? Um, where we start becoming teenagers for the most part, because I was born 1969. So let's say, 1987, 88, and all that starts to happen, 89, we're becoming teenagers, and our experiences with, different things other than, playing outside start to happen. You start getting feelings, you start growing, things start to happen. And then all of a sudden we're hit, and I don't know how this affects anybody else, we're hit with HIV and AIDS. Now, we have absolutely zero context of what this is. We have no clue. It starts to come out everywhere. It becomes a national issue, a global issue, and we're still trying to discover ourselves while our baby boomer parents are freaking out, not just because of what we might go through, but what they have done to maybe contract this as well. Because it's not just one, society. It starts to grow into, different things and different people. So everything for our formative years, from even being into our 20s and 25 above, was the Reagan years, President Reagan, the conservative, the family values, the just say no, the ones that don't want to have relations and, sign a petition to become that person or that group, or the ones that tell you to go out and buy condoms. And even at no matter what age, even if I was 24, 25, 26, I could not go into a store and buy condoms. I was embarrassed. It was embarrassing. So even if you're active with the person that you're with, you are hoping that that person has actively gotten and then they tell you that that's not 100% safe. Then you got to go for testing. Like, I don't know about you people, but I was traumatized in that department growing up in the age that should be the discovery age. So I didn't jump around. Okay. Not like my baby boomer friends, parents. Okay. And we were so, at least in my group, we were so tied and scared because every day something else came up and we were curious and we wanted to explore, but it was very difficult for us. Then, once it started to ease up a little bit, dating itself for me in my group of friends in my block, growing up, you grew up dating in your block, in the area that was either walkable or bikeable. Okay. If you had a bike, you can go further out on the blocks. Okay. So that was the youngin' years, right? So you dated like that. How far? You don't go into different zip codes. You don't go into different neighborhoods. You pretty much stick to where you could land, right? As you start to grow older and you start taking the public transportation, you can start dating people that are a bus ride away or a train ride away. And depending how far out, but you pretty much stayed in your little circle. Okay. As you start again going into the workforce and you start getting older, you go into the city. This is how it was for us. And, it's like a whole new world opens up as far as dating, especially when you're 19, 20, 21, because you're dating in the city. You're seeing different people depending on where you're working. If you're working an office job, whatever it is, there's a lot of variety going on there. Okay. Problem is that as you want to look at Manhattan as the epicenter, right? Where all of the boroughs converge. Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island all converge into the city predominantly to work. So once you start testing those waters, you pretty much need to know where and how far out you want to date. Because you can easily meet somebody that's from Brooklyn that's, an hour away on train, forget about a bike, even a motorcycle, and, you don't want to give that commitment, or you become city daters, said it, where you date predominantly because you are in close proximity in your office, but then you also had someone in your borough on your block that you were multi-dating. And back then we didn't have smartphones. We only had home phones, answering machines. It was very difficult to get caught. Okay, especially if you had someone in one borough, unless that person smartened up and followed you in your city and you figured out, it would be lunch dates, it would be, evening dates out, whatever the case may be. It was very different, but it's also depending on how far out you want to go in the boroughs and how much you want to invest time. I know this because this was a lot of the people that I grew up with. Now then you have the ones that as you start getting into 2023, you start realizing some of the people had vehicles, right? So if you had someone that knew how to drive and had access to a car, very dateable. If you had someone that had a vehicle themselves, you're marrying them. That was it. That was your husband. That was going to be it. Because that was priceless to us. You know what I'm saying? Like we were still coming off the time of the beepers. People had beepers, but you had a car, girl, we'll cut you. That's my man or my woman, whatever the case may be. Because now you have the mode of transportation, the getting away, getting out and stuff like that. And it's just discovering a whole new atmosphere. So, even I know this is silly, but we used to have bus passes and train passes. So if you're dating someone and they swipe their card for you to get on a train or a bus with them, that was endearing. Believe it or not, that was endearing. Someone that would actually swipe their cards for them. That means that they took money out of their card with their monthly pass or weekly or whatever it is, and they allowed to pay for you to get on the vehicle that they have decided. So as the options started to grow, the dating started to get more difficult because you're competing with different types of people still in New York, but this person could be easily living in Queens and Brooklyn, Staten Island. You don't know. And you're hoping that your man and woman are faithful to you. But I could tell you a lot of people that I knew weren't, because it was like, shiny new toy. I could imagine these people that were living in the greatest generation when they had actually had to, go to war in Europe and they were meeting these European women, how different and exciting it was, and, they come back and they marry their sweethearts. At the end of the day, it was like, imagine going, like, I don't know about you guys, but I get overwhelmed when I go into a pharmacy, like a CVS or something like that. And I just want to look for headache medicine or cough medicine. And there's 19,000 variations. And you become, what is it? Analysis paralysis. So as we started to grow up, the Gen X, for me, the thing I remember the most is the expiration of what I just said, plus the party line. It was a 900 number, a party line. You get to speak to different people on the phone. You don't really see them. They're all flirting with each other. It was a weird experience. And you don't know who you're speaking to. You don't know who you're looking at. And there was no rhyme or reason for that. It was a gimmick. Okay. So I grew up with that. Then came AOL and the AOL chat rooms. Oh my. Okay. You didn't understand. If you haven't been there, if you weren't experienced this, you can't even fathom. It's worse than social media. You're in different types of chat rooms with different type of people. You got dings going and songs going and people with no faces and they're communicating, flirting, trying to get, it was just, it was the very low tech version of what these platforms are now with Instagram and TikTok and flirting and YouTube and all that. It was just so uncoordinated. And I can imagine why it failed, but it was something new, right? I don't know how many successful relationships, but you would have different chat room, like sci-fi chat room, games and geeks, and like just little pockets of chat rooms that you would go in and you would hope that you find someone you can communicate in the room and then they can communicate with you outside of the room. You still don't know who the hell they are. And I think that's what led to this downfall of where we are today. So by the time that the dating apps came out, I was already probably in my 30s, right? So I don't know what era. Match.com was the first one that I remember. eHarmony, there was no harmony in that stupid thing. It was like 400-page dissertation of who you are. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother. Plenty of fish should tell you enough. Okay. I never joined any of those apps because they all were a scam. Okay. It was euphoria for people who wanted to meet or scan or be with people or talk to people that had nothing to do with their four corners of their lives. Now you're meeting people in different countries, and when I say meeting, I use the term loosely. Okay. Because there no be no meeting. Okay. There's all toki. Okay. Now we get into this whole Tinder swiping and, now we break it down to, married people who want to just have affairs. It has been diluted so much that there are websites for people who are dating in their 50s. The problem is that I don't see many people in their 50s as far as the matching from the female side. Okay. Like there's young females in there. I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? What is this? Why are you here? You're not even in your 50s. And I'm not convinced that those men want to be with women in the 50s. Not to say all of them are like that, but I'm not thoroughly convinced. Okay. Okay. So now you have the analysis paralysis again, this time in the sense of exactly what I just said. You have all these opportunities and options that at this point it becomes the shopping network, for lack of a better word. And people are not looking at people as people anymore. They're looking at them as opportunities to do whatever they feel that they want to do. And it's from both sides, the male and the female. So the real connections where, you used to be able to connect at some point. I grew up in the club days too. I was at the Palladium. I was hanging out, even dating in your younger years, it was much easier. You like someone, boom, you're dating. Hopefully, you're not doing other things. Cause again, at that time there was questionable things being transmitted. So we were cautious, but at the end of the day, you physically saw someone, whether you saw them in the office, saw them in the park, saw them in the theaters, you physically saw someone. Okay. Nowadays, even if you think you see someone online, they may not be real, whether it's filters, whether it's AI, whatever the hell it is. Okay. And it's become so diluted that when I hear these stories on TikTok about dating frustrations, which is not just in their 50s and 60s, they're young generations feeling the frustration as well. It's going to come back to a point where we're going to come back to what was normalized or, the normal for us, where you physically meet someone. The problem is that I don't know when we're going to get there. And these desperate stories that I hear from both sexes, is pretty scary. So let's take a look we took two females. Let's take a look at one of the male perspectives that I found so interesting when it comes to dating. He had an interesting experience. Okay. Roll that footage.
Hey y'all, me again. So after my last post, somebody reached out to me, and I had a lot of people reach out and send messages and have suggestions and stuff. And reached out, and we messaged back and forth, and we set up a date. So the first thing I want you guys to tell me in the comments is my idea for the first date. Was it good, bad, or okay? So this young lady and I messaged back and forth. We decided we're going to go on a first date, and I planned out a first date, scheduled stuff. And my plan was, she told me in our conversations that over the last 20 years, she hadn't received but like 2 Christmas presents. And over the last 20 years in her relationship, she had gotten flowers maybe 3 times. So the first part of my first date was when she got here, she was going to come up here. And when she got here was to have a Christmas present wrapped up for her and a dozen roses here, so she got some flowers. And then I had scheduled for us to go to, there's a place where I live called Player One Up. It's basically like an 80s arcade where you have dinner or lunch, and it's got old video games and stuff. It's a really cool place. That was where we're going to do lunch. And then downtown they had this thing that's called a treasure hunt, where you go to different restaurants and establishments and bars and stuff, and you kind of try to find stuff there. That was the second part. And then she wanted to go to a place that's in South Carolina called Pretty Place. I was going to drive down to Pretty Place, check it out for the sunset, come back to where I'm from, have dinner at the best restaurant in town, and then to end the night have a fire pit. And where my fire pit is at my house, I also have a hot tub with a big screen projector to where we could watch a movie, and you sit by the fire, get in the hot tub if we wanted to, you sit by the fire. Well, that was my plan. I had it all scheduled out. I thought it was really cool, and she was on board. You know, she had one actually suggested that we go out this weekend. Then I get a text message that says, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, that she needed to do what she wanted to do for herself instead of always trying to please others. And I was like, okay, what's that mean? And she's like, I can't come. I'm going to do what my original plans were, and I'm not going to come up there, and we're not going to go on this date. So it threw me for a loop, man, because this was a real nice young lady, has her stuff together, seemed very considerate, kind of like on the same board, the same wavelength I am. She was a little bit younger than me. I'm 53. She was 43. But she just canceled on me. And after that, I mean, she felt bad, she said, and stuff. And I was just like, you know, why did I even bother? So I guess my question is, one, was it a good first date plan? Was that something sounds cool? Or was it too over the top? Or was it not enough? Two, is that, how are you supposed to react when somebody cancels on you when you have a big plan on there for a weird reason? And three is, at this point, man, I'm ready to find a hobby or a dog or something. So anybody got any suggestions on something cool to do to where it just doesn't matter anymore? As always, God bless. I love you. Have a great night.
Well, my answer to that is yes, it was too much for a first date, in my perspective. Okay. Because one of the questions that the friend that I had over was like, what would be your ideal date? And I can tell you this much. This is what I said specifically. I don't want to be taken out to eat in a restaurant for my first date. I swear to God, I don't. Don't piss me off. Because first of all, it's not a very convenient situation. You're either, in a group, waiters, you feel like you're being interviewed because you're, like this to each other. It's awkward because if it doesn't go well, you can't really order anything because you're not sure if this guy or girl is going to leave you with the money and you may not be able to pay it or whatever the hell the situation is. And some of these stories, these people they go to the bathroom and they never come back and they leave the date hanging there. I'm like, oh, that's not good. Outside of all that, that's not my jam. My ideal date, I would love, and this is just me, I would love to be taken on a picnic to Central Park. It's intimate, but public. It's one of my favorite locations. I can't wait to spend some time in Central Park. There's different areas to have this. you're speaking to each other. One person can bring the picnic food and make sure you figure out what they're allergic to and don't buy all that. And the other person can bring the drinks, whatever the hell the compromise is between the two of you. Let's just hang out, and there's no pressure to be formal in a formal outfit, sitting, waiting for a waiter to come for drinks, for this and that, and eating. No, I don't need all that drama. I want to get to know you. So my ideal date would be someone that would be inclined to do something like that simple. And if it turns out that it's a good thing, there's coffee shops everywhere. We can stop in and get a coffee, relax out of the heat, whatever the situation is, and take it slow. The way that he explained it, I was on board with, him doing the Christmas thing and the flowers until I realized that this is his first date. And though the gesture was nice, I understand that he wanted to bring her back home because he had a fire pit with the movie and all that. And he asked the legitimate question, was it too much? And I'm answering as my opinion, yes. I will not go back home with someone. I don't care who, how many weeks I've spoken to you via video, whatever the case may be. I'm not going back home with you. I don't care. And then to get into a hot tub, dude, I don't know you. Okay. I still don't know you after the first date. Now, if we're talking about 5, 6, 7, 8 dates in, possibly, it really depends on many different factors. But and I don't know this person, so I'm not saying that he could have done anything. It's just an uncomfortable situation to be placed in my opinion. Now, I don't know what this woman was feeling. The way that he explained it was kind of rough, and that gives him the exhaustion of being single. I just think that, for men, because I know another guy that I know in Miami that I worked with, he was always over the top with his first dates. I'm like, dude, down, down, keep it down. All of that with the hot tub and the coming over and, maybe even the gift, definitely if you want to bring her far, is something that you do further into your relationship because you don't want to go into something fire burning. And then because you know what happens, right? It eventually dies out just as fast as it started to go up. You got to slowly bring yourself into these scenarios. Is the nice opening the car door for a woman? My God, I haven't had someone do that for me in years. Making sure that, her favorite drink or something subtle but meaningful, and not bringing her back to your private home is probably a better scenario than what, I don't know why she said no to him. I don't know. We're not getting his side of the story, but I would tell you that I would feel uncomfortable and I would have said, listen, I'm not ready to go home yet to your home, but let's try something on the outside. That's it. Right. So all this to say is that it's not only happening to people in their 50s, though the struggle is real. I'm probably going to do a part 2 to this because I don't want to make this more overly long than I have because there's more clips that I got. But I want to give my personal thoughts on people who are trying to do this actively at any age, especially women and men in my age. Go into this not looking for the golden goose. You have to, you have to be in it to win it. That's the famous lottery, right? If you are in the lottery, you're not going to hit jackpot the first time. You're going to play, and hopefully one day you get a jackpot or some small winning or whatever the hell it is. If you're not in it, you're not going to be able to have the opportunity to win it. Take that as results as dating. You're going to have to continuously go on bad dates or dates that make you uncomfortable. As long as you're safe, as long as you don't do it over the top, as long as you don't throw yourself into everything, you're going to probably have to go on a bunch of dates that are one of, maybe you hit the one, maybe you hit a smaller one and you want to stay with this person. But what I've seen in the clips that I've seen is that there's so much pressure not to be alone. And I'm tired of dating in my 50s and being single and I'm divorced and I don't understand. This is a crap show. I'm like, that we can see you, right? This is the internet that, people are watching this. Like, to me, that's the most uncomfortable thing. Like, if I saw someone's social media and this is what I would see, I was like, yeah, okay. I do miss the days of not being able to be online. I'm not going to lie to you, because some of the stories that I hear, though it's good to hear, but I don't even hear I hear the more desperate things because you know how social media is when everything is negative, that's what hits the algorithm the most, not the things that, are nice, which is not what I'm trying to be in this video, regardless if the algorithm picks me up or not. I know my community and I know the people that love me and follow me and want to listen to me. If this comes out to other people and they join my community, thank you for that. But the problem is that there's so much conversation happening that analysis paralysis. I couldn't even get half the clips because I was like, you know what? I have a headache. I told my friend, I was like, okay. She's like, oh, but maybe you can come with me. Like, no, okay, no. I will go if you want to have some fun and if we meet people, not necessarily for a relationship, and we grow our friendship. Perfect. But if you think I'm going up there, no, okay, it's not happening. I am comfortable. I am comfortable. I think that people find that hard to believe. Now, doesn't mean that if I meet someone that I can be comfortable along with, yes. But I know that I will drown in that shark infested dating pool. I will not do an app. I will not be out, hanging out. You know what? I don't even know where people hang out anymore. Come to think of it. The other day I found out in my local library that they do over 50 something dating discussion. I'm like, it's everywhere now. It's coming through my library. I might even go because I want to delve more into this, and maybe I'll do that before I come to the second part too, because I don't know if anybody's going to show up. I heard that, people are doing what are these things? Dating clubs or meeting clubs or something clubs that people go out and have drinks and there are no men that show up. Listen, kudos to the ones who stick to it. I don't think that everyone that has met their significant other in these dating apps are expected to happen to everyone. Remember, they're the exception, not the rule. They're the 1%, like the 1% on YouTube, who are successful. Doesn't mean that you give up, but it does mean that you need to stop worrying about every single date being the possible person. If you are comfortable and you're in a safe environment, just go out and have fun. Decide that, whether you want to give it a second date or not. It doesn't have to be the grand all ways to, euphoria that I see so many desperate people, not just women, men talking about online. My God, stop. Stop it. Stop it. Let me know if you want me to do a part 2 and focus more on some of these 50s people. Over 50s, because there's some scary crap out there. I wanted to come in because this was something that, again, came up on my YouTube algorithm, and I suspect it's because my phone is listening to me. So now I'm going to throw in some other stuff in my phone to see what else pops up on my YouTube. It is Memorial Day weekend. It's Sunday. It is cloudy, raining, cold. It's 51 degrees. It hasn't stopped raining since last night. There's a pool in my room, outside, that is overflowing. Very interesting way to spend Memorial Day weekend. And I hope that you guys, I brought some value, some insight, laughter, joy, whatever you want to call it, to this topic, because I really wanted to come in here because I am working on the Sex in the City. So for those who come from my Sex in the City videos, as I've mentioned to you before, they're very long and they're very hard to edit, and it takes me a long time. What you see compressed in 1 hour, it's literally the entire day, especially when it comes to editing, because I add my clips in there and then, I change things up a little bit. So that love that I have to provide that for you, it needs to come through. But I'm bringing these other topics because they're easier to edit because I'm not dealing with the clips as much as I do when I do my Sex in the City. But I am so happy that you guys have stayed with me, and not to cry. I just surpassed 1,201 subscribers. I was checking the app for 2 days to make sure that it wasn't a correction. So I've surpassed 1,200 by one person. I cannot express to you how happy that made me feel because I was not expecting that. I've gained 26 new subscribers in the last month. And hello to all my new subs. And it means the world to me that you got, okay, I'm going to start crying. Oh, crap. Let's end this. Thank you for liking, sharing, hyping, doing the job that YouTube should be doing to provide the love and to bring in these new subscribers and to open this community up. My goal was to have 2,000 subscribers at the end of the year. We are almost hitting the halfway point. Will I get there? You never know. Things happen that sometimes are meant to happen for whatever reasons. The fact that if I reached 1,200 already is just, I want you to imagine being in an auditorium and speaking to 1,200 people. Yes, I know that, people get millions of views. Okay, fine. I'm talking about me. Me. So I want you to have a beautiful, blessed day. Memorial Day weekend, blessed week, blessed month, blessed year. Because from here to around the world with you of all who've been with me and my new subs, I cannot thank you enough for allowing me to share. And do me a favor, if you want a part 2, drop the comment. Part 2. And I'll go delve deeper because there's some scary stuff out there. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.